Hey everyone, welcome back to Life Unpotted. This is Daisy here, and you're also joined by Sophie today. We are going to have a conversation just about whatever has been happening, what we've been processing the past few days, and just understanding how do we get out of our heads? How do we actually enjoy the moment? And what does that look like for us? What are our struggles behind being able to do that? Why is it so hard? Is life just a constant cycle of ups and downs? And is that something that we just have to accept? And is happiness found in accepting that? Is it found in being able to just accept that we're not always going to feel great, to accept that we're not always going to feel 100%? Are we not ever meant to feel 100%? No, but we can't expect that to be the case all the time. And excuse my raspiness, it's allergy season in Austin, and that has just been my experience lately, so doing my best here. So something that I've just been thinking about, I don't know what it is that makes it difficult at times to just be here in the moment. And I was thinking about this when I woke up this morning, and I had this urgency to get a bunch of things done. I was constantly worrying about the next step, making sure I worked out, making sure I got fresh air and moved my legs and walked outside. And before I knew it, I was worried about not doing those things so much that I decided, okay, it's important right now that I don't do any of these things that my mind is pining after. And I was feeling anxious, I was feeling stressed that I wasn't working out. I wasn't moving my body. So it made me wonder, is that what the illusion is? Is it falling for something outside of me is going to be what allows me to be happy, to be thinking that that is actually true? Is that with the mindset I go into with working out, if it is based out of fear, is that just going to perpetuate my fear? So that's why I didn't go outside. I didn't go on a workout run. I didn't do anything. And I meditated and I journaled. And I really came to the point as I was journaling about the importance of observing thoughts, of observing anxiety. And of course, I've had this realization before, but came back into this realization pretty heavy, realizing I am not the anxiety. I can observe it. There is a separation between me and this anxiety. I don't have to let it control me or get me down. I can acknowledge that it's there. It's still uncomfortable that it's there, but I can recognize that I am not the anxiety. I am not the thoughts. So that is where I'm at right now. I'm really just trying to observe my thoughts and not let them take me over, and to not become my thoughts. And in the hour that I've had this realization, I definitely find that I am more relaxed, I am more aware, and it's very helpful to just become aware of my thoughts, to observe them, observe the anxiety, observe it. It's still not comfortable, but at least I'm not entirely fully the thoughts.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I don't really know what my experience has been the past 2 days. I definitely have been feeling a little bit anxious, and I've been noticing this come up in social situations. Like I went and met up with someone new in Austin the other day, and when I got there, I felt just anxious, like to interact. And I was noticing I was thinking so much about the conversation as it was happening, and I would go and teeter in between conversing and thinking and conversing and thinking. And this wasn't the first time this has happened. I've been noticing happening a few times of like, I feel like I'm frozen when I'm talking to people recently, which is very new for me. I haven't felt this in a very long time, but I think I used to feel this for a lot of my life. Just like being really scared that I wouldn't be saying the right thing, or being really scared that I wasn't making sense. And then recognizing recently that like, I've been so scared of not being liked. I've been so scared of being perceived as someone who says something wrong, or as somebody who is a certain way. And it's really getting me thinking about, which ties into what you're saying, is the story that we keep living by and creating about ourselves. And I keep falling back into this story of Sophie is someone who does XYZ. And it's interesting because I posted something on Instagram the other day of just saying, like, I'm no longer want to pretend to be normal. I no longer want to just fit in with everybody. I just want to be myself. And I think that really got to me posting that. Like, I felt nervous after that. I felt insecure after that. I felt like I was being exposed. And I think it's interesting because what's on my mind is this fear of being perceived, the fear of being seen, and like how that ties into the story we create about ourselves, as if Sophie exists beyond my mind, right? Like as if a stranger seeing me on the street will perceive me as Sophie, because they won't. They'll perceive me as someone walking by them while they're thinking about themselves. So why is it that when I'm out there on the street and I'm walking, I'm scared to make eye contact with someone, or I don't want to deviate from the social norms, or I just want to make sure that I'm not doing anything to make anyone uncomfortable, kind of at the expense of making myself uncomfortable? So I think these two tie together because ultimately I think a lot of the reason why we can't relax, a lot of the reason why we cannot be in the moment is because we're still running that story through our mind about who we are, needing something to get our value, not feeling whole, and thinking that we need something besides what we already are. And this goes deep. It goes deep for me. I think it goes deep for like everyone, of just never feeling whole. So, of course, if we wake up and we're rushing to get shit done, it's probably because, at least in my experience, because I feel like I need something else to complete me. It's not good enough. The moment's not good enough. So I want to dive a little deeper on that to kind of better understand, like you're saying, Daisy, like we can quite simply say, okay, the answer is to be in the moment. We all know that, right? What are the things that stop us from getting there? So that's where I'm at. I'm really recognizing and becoming aware of, wow, it's like this journey is just, it feels like you're having the same realizations over and over again, but I think I'm getting deeper in them. Like, I think I'm like really getting deeper. They're getting further and further cemented of like, I'm just becoming more and more myself. And that's a painful journey because it requires you to look at the story that you've been keeping yourself trapped in for all of these years. And that's not a story that's easy to let go of in a year, because that's, for me, 30 years or 25 years of my life cemented in the brain. So it's going to take time to rewrite the hardware. And I guess that's what I've been focusing on doing.
I like how you brought up the story, because one of the questions I asked myself since last night is, what is the illusion? And is the illusion just the story? The story is what we tell ourselves when we can't accept the pain, because it's easier to accept the story that is consistent and comfortable, but it's also what induces our suffering. Is that the illusion? Us choosing to pick our stories over facing the pain. And I think that makes sense for me, because I've been wondering lately, all of this pressure that I put on myself to say the right thing, to not sound bad, to always sound the right way, to always make the right decision, to always be making the right decision. It falls under the story that you're not whole, you're not enough. You need to attain something from something outside of you in order to be whole. So if that is your philosophy, you're always going to have this underlying anxiety, because we all just want to feel whole. And I think right now, for me even, I'm having a hard time, because I'm having a hard time talking because my voice is so hoarse and I'm judging that, and it's hard for me to talk. And it's so easy to get caught up in the story. And that's what sabotages us, that we just give up because the pain is so great. The discomfort is so great that we tap out and take the truth to be that we're not whole, and we never will be. And it seems like that is a cycle that we go through. I've always gone through it. I think everyone goes through it. It just looks different for everyone because we all have different stories based off conditionings and experiences. But it all comes down to it. You can feel when someone is open or when someone is covered in layers and closed and angry because they've never allowed themselves the permission to say, maybe this story isn't true. And as soon as you question that, you're thrust into pain, and you don't want to believe that that pain is real because it's so uncomfortable, questioning everything, crying, feeling like you've been wounded, like someone's hurt you, the emotional pain of it, you know what I mean? When you feel like things just, you can't accept it. But I think that's where it begins, because that's never going to last forever. Like that intense discomfort, that's just part of it. And as soon as we're able to let go of that and not try and control it and recognize that we are whole, that underlying anxiety is not going to be as intense, because the underlying anxiety, I believe it's just there because we don't feel we're whole. We don't feel we're lovable. And we have to be able to go out and get that from somewhere and someone else, or someone else's approval. And I'm just talking to my own experiences, trying to understand and make sense of them. That's all this is just trying to understand, making sense out of what we're going through. What is our existence? Is our existence exactly what we're talking about? Have we covered up what our real existence is through extra large coffees from Starbucks, extra large frappuccinos? Have we just distracted ourselves with endless shopping malls to think that that's what reality is? To distract and numb us from our pain, that we've lost touch with it?
So maybe it could be helpful to mention that no one else has the idea, or no one else has the story about you that you have of yourself, for everyone out there. Because it's like we get so convinced that our story is true, and we think other people know that. And I think that's why we're so scared to be seen, because it's almost like if we're so scared to be seen, if we're so scared to be ourselves, because we think that if we be ourselves, we won't be approved. If we think that if we be ourselves, we won't be lovable. And it's just crazy. It's absolutely insane that the illusion, what I think the illusion is, it's like everybody going out into the world and changing themselves. You leave your house, and the way you go and interact with someone is completely different than the way you really want to interact with someone. And I'm not saying like societal norms shouldn't exist. Yeah, like you don't want someone walking up to the cafe and punching someone in the face. But I'm talking more of like, okay, if I'm walking up to meet someone at coffee, why can't I feel confident and be like, hey, how are you? Versus me feeling kind of like, hey, like I feel a little nervous, we're making eye contact, like just feeling a little nervous, like, why am I so scared to let go in these interactions? Why am I so scared to just be myself? And I think we're constantly in every single moment, even when we're alone, we're scared to be ourselves. Like even when you wake up in the morning and you're just going about your day, it's like you're so scared to be yourself because that requires you to let go. So I think the massive illusion is basically that as we exist, as we are in our base state, isn't good enough, that there has to be something that has to change to fit in, to feel validated. And that's why when you go to express yourself or you go to do anything, like for me, if I express myself online, it's like all of a sudden this huge amount of anxiety comes over me. Or if somebody I'm walking by, I think gives me a bad look, because I think it has something to do with me. Like we're so self-obsessed. We're so self-obsessed that all we do from the moment we wake up is think about ourselves until we don't. Like until we get to a point where we can recognize that it's not about us. Like why would we spend this one life so fixated on the idea of Sophie or the idea of Daisy instead of learning, getting out there, interacting with people, having experiences. And I think in order for us to do that, there's a level of fear that we have to let go of like, it's okay, you're safe. It's okay to just surrender and to not be thinking about yourself. I think a large part of the reason why that's so hard for us to let go and just go about our days and just do what we need to do is because we don't think we're whole. We think that like something will go wrong if we just let go. But have you ever tried to experience what that's like? To get up and just go somewhere and go to a coffee shop and really say what you want to say to the person, or make the comment that you actually want to say, or make eye contact with the person that you're scared to make eye contact, or post on social media what you actually want to say. Have you ever seen what would happen after that? Nothing happens. Everything's fine. Everything is always fine. But it's this idea that we create that something's wrong. And then we start telling ourselves a story that people don't like us. This person's judging me. Oh my God, my value, my value, my value. All of a sudden, we're so fixated on the idea of Sophie and her value. But no one else is thinking that. And that's when we come back to self-created suffering, where that really paints a picture of no one else is thinking about you as much as you are, and kind of highlighting from every given moment, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. How many times are you thinking about yourself? How many times are you thinking about what does this mean about me? And I think when we can let go of that, and I'm really working on letting go of that, we can just have fun in reality, and we can just have fun in every moment and just experience what's actually unfolding without giving so much weight to the story and to the thoughts and to the emotions. And we can really learn what it means to become the observer.
Well, I think it comes to a point where the story only serves us purpose as we are trying to understand our pain. And it gets to a point where the story at some point perpetuates the pain. And I think the greatest example I can give, I'm currently experiencing this, where I'm triggered by something, by being talked over or being talked at, or all of these things. And on one end, the story that I can easily fall into is that I was just so hurt growing up from being talked over, from feeling like I'm being controlled, all of these things. But that's not helpful anymore. It only gives me a ground to stand on to perpetuate this allowance of this happening, as opposed to standing up to that in my head, standing up to the pain and working against it, not in a way that is angry, not in a way that is controlling, but just accepting it. But in that acceptance, being able to find safety again, and no longer putting the blame on someone else, but maybe it's taking accountability for how these things make me feel. Again, the pain as opposed to the story. And the story, just, I lack accountability, and I allow these things to keep happening to me over and over and over again because I'm the one who's doing that. And that's really hard to accept. It's really hard to accept, but on the other end, it's what keeps you suffering. It's almost like you have to stand up to the bully that's in your head by taking accountability and letting go of the story. And I think that is what is empowering, because the power is back in your hands for yourself. You are no longer a victim to the bullying of your own mind based off things and experiences that happened to you that taught you to do this to yourself, to keep yourself stuck and trapped in this cyclical bullying of constantly thinking you're worthless or not enough. And you just have to stand up to that bully in your head. And you have to let go of the story to do that.
Yeah, and maybe like standing up to the bully is just not doing what the bully wants you to do. So I've been experiencing this a lot where like you have a thought or a feeling that wants you to do something. So whether that's it wants you to close, like everything in your body is telling you to close. Everything in your mind is telling you to get mad at that person or to get mad at yourself, or that situation isn't good enough or something's wrong. Like you have this really strong pressure that comes over me, and I guess comes over you and comes over all of us, it seems like, of a pull to react. It comes back to reaction. It really does. Like whether that is you just went on a date and your body's feeling so much anxiety and fear that you said the wrong thing, or you're in a relationship and you're feeling so frustrated by your partner, or you're at work and you're feeling like your boss hates you and you're going to get fired. Like whatever situation you're in, it's this pull of emotions that feel so intense that we can't handle them. And I think I'm realizing like there's two routes here. Either we listen to that really strong pull that says, close, get mad, self-sabotage, or we just go the other way. And that's really, 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 really hard to do. Even throughout this episode, I felt myself like getting a little agitated. And I don't know if I'm feeling like you're feeling, Stacey, but it's just like the awareness has to be stronger than that force that's telling you to close. And it makes me think back to Michael Singer, like, don't ever close. Don't ever close, no matter how painful it is. Stay open. And I guess it's like you start to see that when you do stay open, you do find relief. I think relief can be found in ways that don't really make sense to us, that our mind and body aren't used to looking that way. So let's say traditionally, like, it was safer to react because when we were younger, or like I think about when I was in high school and I used to get upset, I used to tell myself good things. Like I remember telling myself like, oh, just think about, that party coming up, or think about this coming up, like kind of trying to distract myself from the experience that was unfolding. And I think at the time that maybe that I thought that helped me, but it didn't, because it taught me that I need to listen to thought when an intense emotion is arising. I need to do something to change it. I need to react in some way. I need to get mad at someone, or I need to create a story, or I need to think about something else. Like I need all these coping mechanisms, escape mechanisms. And I think what happens as we get older is like our mind is still doing that. We're still trying to cope in ways that just don't make sense anymore. Like the anxiety we feel, or the anxiety I feel when I post on social media sometimes, it feels like I'm in the high school cafeteria talking to the popular group and everyone's seeing me who I am. When in reality, people probably see my stuff and don't even think anything about it. So the only way to free ourselves is to keep going despite the discomfort, to stay open despite the discomfort and not do the thing that your mind or your body is telling you to do. You just don't do it and see what happens.
I mean, think of any given day where you wake up and you don't feel super excited and super pumped about the day. Sometimes we do, but the majority of time, it might not be the case. But I think the difference between suffering and being sad and being upset is just the story you tell yourself. Because you can wake up with the same bundle of emotions one day and just, like you said, not close, just stay open, allow things to come in and out of you. And by doing that, you're just going to end up raw and open and relaxed. But if you tell yourself a story of why you're sad, of why you're upset, of why you're suffering, then you're going to breathe life into those things. And those are going to be the reasons why you're sad, suffering, and unhappy. If we can catch ourselves from telling ourselves these stories, then we can just show up in the state that we're in, being open, and things will come after that are positive experiences. But I feel like when we try to tell ourselves a story, we're forcing something to try to be. But when we're just staying open, we're allowing for endless opportunities and potential to experience, because that's what reality is. It's staying open. Because once we close off, it's like closing your doors for your business. You can guarantee that no customer is going to come in. But if you leave it unlocked, even though you're feeling it, what it is that you're feeling, you're not putting a name to it. You're leaving the door open for the potential that someone could walk in and make your day because they have a contagious smile, or because they just want to help someone feel better because they've been there. And that's the opportunity that we have every single day. We can allow ourselves to be open to the infinite potential and possibility of good things that may happen to us. But that's only going to manifest, or that's only going to play out into an experience for us if we allow ourselves to stay open. And oftentimes, always actually, staying open means sitting with the pain, sitting with the discomfort, because that's what allows you to be raw. They go in tandem. Is that when you're in touch, when you can grasp what it means to be just there, the human experience, if you can grasp what it means to exist, those granular emotions that are at the root of our existence, if you're in touch with them, of course, you're going to be able to be open to the great potential and infinite abilities that we have here. I believe that those two things go hand in hand. But to the untrained eye, those feelings of the human condition can mean that we are just so sensitive and so upset because X, Y, and Z happened to us. And that's where our doors are closed. That's where we lose the potential for things to change, for our mood to change, for our experience to change, because we're closing ourselves off from the world. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can leave ourselves open and raw, because that's where the happiest feelings are felt, the most intense feelings are felt. And that's what life really is. It's not the distractions of things like the Super Bowl or the Grammys or the World Cup, all of these things that there's a hierarchy that make us feel like we aren't a part of it. These things that our society has built us around is an idea of yourself. It's an idea of yourself. And that's what is attached to the story. And that is what is attached to limiting yourself. So if we can let go of all of that and just sit in our existence without attachment to anything, the beauty of pain and discomfort, it allows you to arrive at this place where you can be in touch with the most core things of our existence.
What would you say the most core things of our existence are?
Being here and not being in thought, just experiencing this moment openly and excitedly.
Why? What's so good about that?
I think it's feeling. I think what gives this moment value is the feeling of sadness. Why do we think poetry is something that's so beautiful, or classical music, or the final scene in movies? It's like the friction point of like pain, sadness, loss, grief that births like us the entryway to beauty. It's like, well, you can't have one without the other. Like the most beautiful things require suffering, because the moment we come out of suffering is the moment that's beautiful. And we make the decision if we allow ourselves to get to that place. So when we do allow ourselves to get to that place, it is beautiful, because we just get to experience things as they are. In a world full of suffering, in a world full of thought, it's beautiful once we reach that point to just exist.
And I think that's the power of going through stuff, like going through certain difficult experiences and actually allowing yourself to go through them, because that's what provides context. If I didn't go through everything I've gone through in my life, how would I be where I am now? To be open to love and to understand the love on a universal level and be able to open my heart to so many other people in this world, instead of just being so self-centered and thinking about me all the time and always worrying about just me. Like, how else would I have been able to experience the depths of every emotion? We forget that everything in life is relative. So like, there would be no such thing as pain if there wasn't such thing as happiness, or you wouldn't have the sensation of being free unless you have the sensation of being stuck. So it's like, we get so caught up and we get so frustrated by the intense emotions when they arise. We get so judgmental of, I'm experiencing sadness, or I'm feeling frustrated today, or I just feel like all of these things, instead of understanding that when you really zoom out to like the macro level of existence, and even thinking about the fact that we're here in the first place and that we're having this experience, like we get so caught up in like, okay, I'm here, I'm born, I'm going through life, so it has to be the certain way. So if Daisy or if Sophie had these certain set of experiences in this human body, then wow, that's awful. And I'm going to mope and feel like shit my entire life, instead of recognizing that our existence is nothing but a blimp in terms of reality, and that experience as Daisy or as Sophie isn't what we are. It's not. Like, I think of the times where I've meditated so deeply and I'm just in a period of like warmth and contentment and peace. Like, peace is when you're accepting everything. And we almost forget how much we resist because we don't know otherwise. And that's why when you take something like mushrooms, you're like, holy shit, why am I resisting so much? Our base state becomes resistance. And resistance, going back to the example of like, why am I thinking so much about what I'm saying at the coffee shop, meeting up with this friend, instead of just being at the coffee shop, meeting up with this friend? Like, we don't give ourselves a chance to actually experience what's unfolding because we're so concerned for, obviously there's validity behind it. Obviously the experiences are real, but it gets to a point where you recognize the only thing that's keeping you between here and relaxation is resistance. That thinking is familiar, thinking is comfortable. Resistance is so comfortable because we're so used to feeling like a closed ball of just resisting everything that's unfolding, commenting on everything that's unfolding. And it's like, is that really the point of being here? To comment and to feel like this isn't good enough and to always want more and more and more and more, and this experience isn't good enough, where I'm at isn't good enough. Like, we just watch our life flash by us of like, I've already spent 30 years of my life caught up in my head. And I've started to see what it means to not live like that. I'm starting to see what it means to not think about myself, to feel free. And when you go through shit, like we've been going through shit the past 2 weeks, it makes me really wonder, like, there is no set duration of going through stuff that exists in reality. So when we create the idea like, okay, I'm going through this and I'll be going through it for a week because that's my standard level of being in a funk. When we start like creating this idea that we're going to be in a funk because we're typically in a funk, I don't think we give ourselves a chance to recognize that like maybe we don't ever have to be in a funk, because we're commenting, we're analyzing, we're assessing that where we're at isn't where we're supposed to be. What if we were to recognize that we're always at, literally, you cannot be anywhere than where you are right now. We can't be anywhere than on these chairs right now having this conversation. So why would we think we could be? Why would we think that what I said throughout this podcast, I need to change it? Why would I feel like something isn't right when we are so used to commenting on reality through the lens of our preferences, through the lens of our mind? And
well, the freedom is in letting go, to not care.
Yeah, like, why do we care so much? What is caring? Because where does it get us to care?
Because we're trying to get our value from somewhere to feel whole again. But we forget that we are whole in this moment, and that we don't have to close and run away because we feel pain. We can look at it in the eye. We can look at pain in the eye and stay open to it and not succumb to it. And that's what it is. That's what it is. Because once we do that, nothing can get us down, because we're looking at it simultaneously while also staying open. So we're feeling the best of life, the joys, the happiness, but we're also feeling the pain. And that feels profound, because when we're able to stay open, we're open to endless opportunities. And by opportunities, I mean experiences with other people, love. We're open to love between others. And if you're just not alone if you think these thoughts, but no one talks about them, because we live in a world that's told us to always be happy. Maybe that was living in New York City and working in corporate world, or maybe that started in college, maybe that started in high school, or maybe it started everywhere. But we just don't have to exist like that. We can show up and realize it's not our best day, but we don't have to get caught up in the idea of this needing to be a great day. Because once we let go of that, the stronger the likelihood that it's going to be a great day is true. Because we don't have an expectation. We're not in the mind. We're not in the thought. So life's not going to be comfortable because growth isn't comfortable, but growth is exciting. Growth is fun, but it's not easy. But what is easy is boring. What is easy is boring. And when things are boring, we don't push ourselves. And when we don't push ourselves, we're not happy. So it's much more fun to do things uncomfortable and scared and have fun with it, because who cares about the outcome? Because we're just trying to live our lives before we die and have this experience and be here and really be here and see the beauty of it, see the pain of it, see the ugliness, see the intricacies of everything. What do we have to lose? We don't have anything to lose other than this moment. And we have total control over if we exist in it or not.
We have nothing to lose but living. Like, we have nothing to lose but experiencing what it means. That we zoom out and it's like, you don't have to play the character you've been playing. You can recognize that this is all a dance. It's not serious. It's not serious. It's fun. It's play. And when you don't feel like everything means something about you and implicates your value in society and how people are going to perceive you and who's going to like you and what people are going to think about you, and if what you're doing is good enough, what you're creating is good enough, for who? Like, the judgment someone might have on you will probably in their mind last 4 seconds, 10 seconds, okay, maybe a minute if they really want to talk about you. But the truth is, the judgment about yourself can last in your head for years. It can last forever. Forever. For your entire existence on this planet, you will spend it worrying. And I'm here to tell you, listener, that it's not about accomplishing anything to get you to a point where you don't feel this way. It's about letting go of the trap of the mind, letting go of every time you believe a thought, your body responds. It's a circular cycle. You keep yourself stuck. Like, I keep myself stuck. I'm talking to myself right now. I was definitely a little rigid starting this episode. And it's so interesting because, like, I haven't done anything uncomfortable in a while. And I think I've kind of been in this point of being scared to do things that are uncomfortable. I'm feeling scared to do uncomfortable things again. And the reason we got here, the reason we even moved to a new city, is because we plunged into the unknown. But it doesn't stop there. We don't just embark into the unknown and decide that, okay, time to go back to bed, time to go back to our cave. Our friend George Poulos has a beautiful example of, like, feeling like a rabbit coming out to get the carrot and then going back as soon as he gets the carrot. And it's like, I feel like I'm realizing that I have been really scared of doing uncomfortable stuff, like going and meeting someone new at a cafe. I was so anxious. I haven't, like, been posting much videos on social media. Just, I've been halting myself. I haven't been writing. I've been avoiding a lot of stuff. And doing this podcast Monday morning, recording it, wow, it feels really good, because even in the beginning of the episode, I was judging it, like, what am I saying? And it's just like, that has nothing to do with the podcast. That's the state I was in, of judgment. The podcast, like everything in this life, right? Your relationship just reveals, it's just a mirror of how you're treating yourself. If you feel angry about the person in the room, you're probably mad at yourself. And we can use life as a mirror to understand ourselves better, because beyond all that is bliss, is peace. And I think what I'm recognizing is that, like, I can't hide from continuously moving forward in discomfort. Like, think about how, like, we were hosting that live podcast and, like, we haven't really, like, followed up with the coffee. Like, there's, like, you have to keep going, like, keep pushing yourself. And I think a lot of the time suffering, that state comes when we're not engaged in reality. We're not taking our heart and creating and expressing and doing and being. Like, Otherwise, we're in this act of almost like we're paused. It's like we hit pause in the movie. So it's like, can we, to the listener, like, can you hit play again, whatever you're doing right now? Can you make the decision to hit play on your life? And hitting play means you're not paused in the thoughts. You're not paused in this fear state. You're not paused in worrying and thinking and ruminating, but you're experiencing. Can you let yourself let go to find out what is there to experience? Because it's like my fear of leaving the apartment after COVID, or the fear of like going out there. We start to think that being comfortable and on our couch is optimization. It is the highest, most comfortable experience on this life. Oh, I feel so safe in my house. I feel so comfortable, but we forget that comfort is deceiving. It's the sheep in the wool coat, whatever the expression is. I always forget it.
Sheep's in wolf's clothing. No, a wolf in sheep's clothing.
It's a wolf in sheep's clothing because it's like, oh, the sheep is so comfy and it's so cozy. And it's just like, basically, like, I think another huge insight I'm having is like, we don't know what's best for us. So instead of staying scared and doing the same thing we've been doing over and over again, I think what I was saying originally, like, I don't think life ends when we take a jump. I think life is continuously jumping into the unknown. It's continuously jumping into the unknown. And it's crazy how much this is giving me a sense of relief, which just shows that I have been scared of the unknown. I have been scared of doing uncomfortable stuff. So maybe that's why I've been feeling scared. It's never what we think it is.
Well, when you give up facing things and facing the unknown, facing discomfort, facing truths about yourself and facing them versus falling into the story, when you stop facing things, you stop living. Life is just facing things. That's all it is. And it's a continuum of discomfort. It's a continuum of feeling raw. But that's where things are beautiful. It's when they're raw. It's when you show up in a form that is just open and you look at the thing that scares you the most and you say, I'm not going to fall for this today. I'm not going to create a story instead of facing this today. I'm actually just going to look at it in the eye and say, you can't control me. I'm going to stay open. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to run. I'm going to jump off the cliff over and over and over again. And I'm going to jump into the water and I'm going to experience what that's like. The fear as I jump, the relief as I fall, and the excitement of when it's over. I'm not just going to sit on that excitement. I'm going to continue to look at it. And that's the cycle. And I think it's like how long the cycle exists is up to us. We can catch ourselves as we fall into a story as it's happening, or we can wait 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. Peace is always on the other side of that. Feeling it all is always on the other side of that. I don't even know how to explain it, but that's why I brought up the ending scene of a movie where there's been all of this stuff and finally there's beauty, or the climax of a classical music piece, or that one line in a song, or that one line in a poem. There's a reason why it's these moments that make us feel a certain way. It's because we're open to everything that's happened. And it takes everything, and it takes being open to everything to experience that one moment, that one beautiful moment. And that's where I'm at. I opened this conversation with questioning, believing my thoughts, falling into observing them. And by observing the thoughts, it's led me to this point of realizing that we have to hold both pain and beauty at the same time. That's what allows us to be raw, and that's what allows us to stay open to the endless and infinite opportunities to be and to connect and to love every single day.
Do you notice a shift in our energy from the beginning to now? Like, I definitely feel more like I let go a little bit.
I feel like I let go this morning before. we started podcasting, but I definitely see a shift in you. I was looking into your eyes when I was talking a lot, and I could feel your resistance.
Oh, I've been resisting, and it's interesting how like talking about, I think what I've been scared of and what I was just thinking about kind of is like how comfortable I'll feel like when I'm in my parents' house, like growing up, like I'm free, like there's nothing, I'm not constricted, I'm not constrained. And how here, being in a new city, being in a new location, so much unknown. When I said that thing about being like, wow, like I have to keep jumping off the cliff, like I have to keep jumping off, I have to keep running out of the cave, I have to keep going, I think I'm seeing how I've become a little bit scared and complacent in just being scared of all the unknown instead of facing the unknown and realizing that the unknown starts to feel known once you face it. Like there is no unknown, but beyond what our mind's telling us. And I think this is a really important realization because it's like I was tense clearly because there's a reason why, but I wasn't even in touch with that reason, which is because I felt scared. I felt anxious. I felt just scared of all the unknown. And I felt scared of letting go into the waters without knowing if there's a boat to rescue me, without knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, just surrendering, knowing that nothing bad will happen. And I think that is a really, really big trend I've spent a lot of my life in that has been highlighted after leaving my job and living on savings, is that like I'm terrified. Like there's a part of me deep down, like I'm just recognizing that like since a child I've been really deeply scared of existence. I've been scared of existence. I've been scared of death. And I see how I grasp on to wanting comfort, wanting safety, wanting familiarity, instead of really embracing what's out there, because I don't actually feel good from the comfort. It's deceiving. I don't actually feel good from it. So I think this is just a sign to me to do something uncomfortable, aka keep following this path I've been doing of the uncomfortable stuff, whether that's posting on social media or reaching out to people or writing, and not taking that resistance at face value that says, oh, I can skip the newsletter this week. Oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to write, whatever. And yes, of course, there's a balance with like the pressure, but I mean in terms of like, but I want to do that. So why am I not letting myself do the stuff I want to do? It's like I'm not letting myself do the stuff I want to do because I've been stuck in fear and resistance. So it's never what you think it is. I think it's a big realization for me. Like I thought I don't know. There's so many things happening all the time. But I think it's just a recognition that like, I don't want to hold myself back from moving forward. And I don't have to. I don't have to keep grasping so tight because everything's okay. And nothing bad's going to happen. What's the worst that happens? I have to get a job in a year. Okay. Then what? Like, why can't my body state today be like it would when I'm on vacation on a beach with nothing to do? Why is taking action, why does that become so like, if I have to take action, it means I have to suffer. If I have to do work, I have to feel stressed. If I have to do all these things, I can't relax. Like relaxation comes first. The actions can follow, but actions aren't inherently stressful. Nothing's inherently stressful except your own mind. So I'm letting go of thinking everything has to mean something and taking everything so seriously, and instead of just having fun, just like having fun, creating and building and growing without every single step I take has to mean something about who I am or about my future or about failing. Like there's no such thing as failing. That doesn't exist. I don't know if you can resonate with that.
There is no such thing as failure because there's just existing now. And the only way you can fail is to not choose to exist in the moment. That's simply it.
Yeah. Just the importance of expressing, like, and getting in touch with yourself is something that you do through the process of letting go. And I think continuously pushing past everything that tells you not to is what frees you. So yeah, this conversation just was what exactly it had to be. And I'm grateful to have this platform and to be expressing ourselves and to our audience for listening here today. And I'm excited to continue the journey of just deepening into awareness and deepening into who I am outside of the fear and letting the fear control me and letting the story control me. So hope everyone has a nice day, and take a deep breath, ground yourself, relax the body, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.